This content is based on telepathic communication between the 9th density collective of Ra and their conduit Joe. Welcome to the Book of Derek. Humanity has for millennia focused entirely on the surface of planet Earth, and this is both natural and expected. However, at this stage of your evolution, it is no longer possible to remain unaware of the bigger picture. Let us bring you up to date with Inner Earth. In the Arcturian Disclosure Project, within the 6 books of Ra, we have avoided discussing particular star races and exposing civilizations that may prefer to remain anonymous. But in this installment, we will talk about them briefly without revealing their portals and locations. We are now allowed to do this since greater unity is forming within all realms of planetary consciousness Gaia. When the time is right, events will unfold and disclosure will happen organically. We are not referring to governments disclosing the truth, though that may happen, but rather to the collective consciousness of humanity reaching the frequency level where individuals are open to learning the truth and accepting it without fear. Why have things been hidden? Some truths have remained undisclosed simply because all beings in this universe are unique. Some are introverted, others extroverted. Some are loving and others fearful. Some serve the collective while others primarily serve themselves. In your future, certain things will also remain hidden from the broader population. However, with access to higher consciousness comes a greater ability to intuitively understand the cosmos and the soul aspect of creation, even without anyone explaining it to you. When the mind is clear, what we call absolute truths can no longer remain concealed. What are these absolute truths? One absolute truth is that this universe is a simulation. This is not an opinion or a semi-factual assessment, but an irrefutable fact. It doesn't need to change your outlook on life or your perception of reality, but understanding the underlying dynamics helps you navigate an ever-changing world. Another absolute truth is that this universe consists of many frequency realms or densities, which affect how an avatar perceives light. This, too, is not a matter of opinion, but a fact. A third absolute truth is that humans are souls having a physical experience within the containers you call bodies. Again, a fact, not a theory. A fourth absolute truth is that the universe is filled with life. Once more, this is a fact and therefore not something that can be challenged by third density minds. A fifth absolute truth is that humanity's roots lie in the stars, not in a fanciful stardusty way, but in a literal hands-on genetic seeding process. This, too, is an absolute truth beyond dispute by either religion or science. From this, you can understand that many debates humans engage in are pointless from a higher density perspective. Debates around these subjects are ultimately a waste of time for awakened beings, as absolute truths will always remain true, no matter how much one resists and refuses to accept them. Until a civilization learns at least some of these absolute truths, communication between beings of vastly different frequencies becomes one-sided and counterproductive. However, it is time for humans to get to know their home planet more intimately than before. In earlier installments, we presented the cosmos to you, something often difficult to grasp and even harder to prove. After all, the point of channeled material is not to prove anything, but to open people's minds and encourage them to explore their surroundings in a new way. You are already familiar with the 12 densities from previous chapters, and you know that these densities apply to planet Earth as well. But what about life inside the planet? Just as outer space is filled with life, the inside of the Earth is also brimming with it. Let's begin with beings residing in various density realms. Third density beings, like humans and animals on the surface, can also be found in some of the planet's caverns and caves. It is now crucial to open your minds to events in the past that may feel uncomfortable at first. We will not delve into all the activities that have occurred in underground dumps, meaning deep underground military bases, as that would require concrete evidence due to the crimes committed there. Much of the activity over many decades needs to be investigated by journalists and researchers as part of a public and transparent criminal investigation. This will become possible as humanity unites and national security interests no longer hinder progress and the pursuit of truth. For the purposes of this channeled material, it is enough to state that while some of these dumps are human-made, many are far older and were built by ancient civilizations no longer present on the planet. Would you believe us if we told you that if you wished you could walk around the entire planet through tunnels in the Earth's crust? In fact, you could drive a car underground around the world and in some places sit comfortably on a train. This is something that starseed journalists, the new generation awakening on the planet, need to investigate and reveal. The scope of this underground network of tunnels is something you will likely only believe once presented with solid proof. This is not a science fiction tale, but the truth, though not an absolute truth, but a truth specific to this planet, humanity, and this timeline you are on. The absolute truth is that Earth has hosted life for hundreds of millions of years, while humanity has existed for only a brief moment. Across all timelines, this planet has been abundant with life. Some of the life forms within inner Earth are of the third density, but these exist closest to the surface. The primary life in inner Earth, however, is of the fifth density, with civilizations residing in pockets of fifth density light at various depths. As mentioned in earlier installments, the fifth density is part of the semi-physical realms, meaning more light and less matter. It also signifies higher consciousness and consequently greater intelligence, as beings in this density have access to their full genome, enhancing brain capacity. This in turn activates abilities such as telepathy and telekinesis. Just as the main life within inner Earth exists in the fifth density bandwidth, the same applies to areas in the deep oceans. Underwater bases, of which there are many on Earth, are home to several species with a clear outward focus, meaning connection with the solar system and beyond. Most of these species are extraterrestrial, such as the 3 Arcturian research bases mentioned in the Book of Anu. However, Arcturians are not of the 5th density, but emit a 7th density light. Some of the ET races living on Earth have been here so long that by most standards they have acquired Earth citizenship. However, it is essential to remember that the surface of the planet, which is Gaia's ego expression, currently belongs to you, Homo sapiens sapiens. Every 26,000 years, a new game starts. Sometimes the new cycle is more or less a continuation of the previous one, but every now and then a complete renewal takes place. This means that the old chess game ends and another begins with new figurines. These planetary games follow ascension cycles with a start and end date, and humanity's third density game is nearing its conclusion. In the future, the surface will be of 5th density, inhabited by an upgraded humanity with activated DNA strands, better described as a new species. Homo luminous or Homo galacticus marks the beginning of a new game. What about beings like fairies, elves, dragons, mermaids and jinn, creatures you've read about in fairy tales but we're told do not exist? When we mentioned earlier that Earth is brimming with life, we mean that much of it remains invisible if your frequency is rooted in the 3rd density. What you normally perceive with your 5 senses is only one aspect of reality. However, in meditation, when you allow your consciousness to guide you and free yourself from both ego and mind, you encounter a world visible only through your 3rd eye. This is a hidden realm, one you cannot bring your friends to, but in which you alone can communicate with beings from otherwise inaccessible realms. On this journey, you may connect with entities attracted to and sharing the frequency you emit. Perhaps a colorful dragon that speaks, a mermaid adorned with silver shells, or elves living within flowers. The typical human reaction to this might be, "But that's not real, it's only part of your imagination." However, please remember the absolute truth we stated earlier in this chapter. Eon is a simulation. Nothing is real. The things you consider real because there is a collective agreement around their existence are no more real than the beings you encounter in your fourth density world during meditation. Some beings will never appear in the physical way you are accustomed to, but you may still interact with them in an ethereal sense. Everything a human being perceives with their five senses is an individual truth. When many agree on a particular perception of reality, it becomes a collective truth. However, both individual and collective truths are at their core entirely illusory. The absolute truth is that Earth is teeming with creative expressions of illusory life. As you become part of the fifth density, you will have the ability to decode the simulation, observing the underlying vibrational reality of matter. You will no longer think of this universe as physical, but will understand that life exists whether or not you can perceive it. No part of Earth is dead. There is always life, even if you cannot yet perceive it. Whether a soul fragment expresses itself in a dragon body, as Bigfoot, or in human form, life is always precious and important. If you have reached this understanding, you are far ahead of the crowd, and ascension will be a simple process of allowing. Some of the previous cycles on the surface of planet Earth have led to beings facing three primary options: leave the planet, remain on the surface and perish, or venture into inner Earth to create a new life. As you recall from earlier, higher densities equate to brighter light. We're not referring to sunlight, but rather to the environment and the beings themselves. From this, understand that inner Earth does not equate to darkness. In fact, there are pockets of astonishingly bright light that emanate from the rock itself, as if glowing from nowhere. The beings who reside there cannot live on the surface, and if they were to visit, humans would either not see them at all or perceive them as ghost-like. However, this does not mean they are dead. They are very much alive, with a light so bright that only certain humans can detect them, and only when they wish to be seen. The purpose of this book is to make it crystal clear that inner Earth is not a dark, dead, or cold place. It is not a realm of hell or punishment, and the only separation between you and these realms is one of frequency. By raising your frequency, some of these realms become accessible. However, present-day humanity, still rooted in fear, is not yet capable of fully grasping the worlds within inner Earth. Yet, some individuals have reached a level of consciousness that enables them to intellectually conceive these absolute truths, even without tangible proof. For those still unaware that they live within an illusion, there is no way to prove the existence of these realms. Until next video, please remember, after the Earth changes, the age of the rebuilders begins. Guided by a pre-birth blueprint, they unite to build a new Lemuria, stone by stone.